Pyrotechnics will fire to separate the three sections of the Soyuz. The center section, the descent module where the crew resides at this moment, that is the only section that survives the searing heat of reentry, where temperatures around the vehicle will build to some 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. About 15 minutes before touchdown, a series of computer commands will first deploy a drogue chute. The drogue chute then will pull out a main parachute on the Soyuz. And just about 2 seconds before touchdown, soft landing engines will fire to further slow the Soyuz down, enabling it to land. In this case, it will be landing about 91 miles to the southeast of the town of Roscosmos, and the three crew members, Dyson, Kononenko, and Chub, will be back on Earth. Within minutes after landing, the helicopters that are being boarded by the Rosaviatsa Search and Recovery Forces and the NASA team of recovery personnel will be landing in a sequential fashion to begin the process of making sure the vehicle is safe, no toxic gases emanating from the vehicle, before they begin to open up the hatch and extract the three crew members, who will be placed in chairs right by their spacecraft for a few minutes of orientation back to Earth's gravity. For Tracy Dyson, her first sensation of gravity in more than 6 months, and for Kononenko and Chub, their first sensation of gravity in more than a year. At an altitude of some 18,000 feet, commands will be issued to jettison the heat shield and inhibit the entry control thrusters, also opening valves to vent all the hydrogen peroxide fuel for the entry control thrusters and the oxygen that remains in the Soyuz life support system tank. If we have video at that point from a ground-based ATV that will be trained, its cameras trained on the skies to try to pick up the Soyuz under its parachute, if we're able to see that, you may be able to see a white vapor emanating from the Soyuz. That will be normal. It's a combination of hydrogen peroxide and oxygen venting into the air. This is designed to safe the vehicle for landing so that no hazardous gases remain in those tanks when the soft landing thrusters fire about 2 seconds before touchdown and before the vehicle is back on the ground. This way, the ground support personnel can approach the vehicle immediately to begin the process of extracting the crew as quickly as is possible. Here in Mission Control in Houston, awaiting the start of the deorbit burn, is veteran astronaut Laurel O'Hara, who launched with Kononenko and Chub back in September of last year. She returned with Oleg Novitsky and Marina Vasilevskaya of Belarus back in March on a different Soyuz vehicle. Seated with her is astronaut Reed Wiseman, the commander of the Artemis II mission. The countdown clocks here are ticking backward toward the Soyuz landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan, southeast of the town of Roscosmos, about 91 miles to the southeast of Roscosmos. The latest weather forecast at the landing site, it's fairly ideal for this first full day of the autumnal equinox. Just scattered clouds at 8,000 feet and 25,000 feet. The visibility is more than 6 miles. The winds are gusty, out of 280 degrees, 18 knots, peaking to 24. And the temperature is a balmy 73 degrees to greet Tracy Dyson, Oleg Kononenko, and Nikolai Chub.
18 minutes to separate.
Dyson is wrapping up 184 days in space, 373 days in space on her 3 flights. Nikolai Chub is wrapping up the first flight in his career, in which he and Oleg Kononenko set an International Space Station record of 374 days, and Kononenko, the all-time record holder for most days in space by any human, is completing 1,111 days off the planet. We are standing by for confirmation that the spacecraft has emerged from the plasma regime.
Unintelligible. Plus 5 seconds is offset and SR pressure. 765, copy. Integral plus 14 Copy. You are on the third. 363 was the maximum G load. How are you feeling, guys? We're feeling good. So the integral plus 13, and we are following the curve. Copy.
And that report through the interpreter is that of Soyuz Commander Oleg Kononenko. The crew is in good shape, having emerged from the plasma regime.
You're good.
Next up will be the deployment of the parachutes. The Soyuz is right on the mark.
So point 2.
Good trajectory heading for the landing site.
Copy. And the integral 13. Yes, that's correct. Minus point 2.
We're standing by for confirmation of the parachute deploy. There are 2 pilot parachutes first deployed, the second of which extracts the drogue chute. That drogue chute is then released, measuring 24 square meters, slowing the Soyuz down from a descent rate of 230 meters per second to just 80 meters per second. Then the main parachute will be released, covering an area of 1,000 meters. It slows the Soyuz to a descent rate of 7.2 meters per second. The harnesses on the chute first allow the Soyuz to descend at a purposeful angle of 30 degrees to expel heat, then will shift the Soyuz to a straight vertical descent. The next time we hear from the crew, it should be through the Antonov 26 fixed-wing aircraft, which is at the landing site, airborne. Will be operating as a command and relay station, if you will, for voice and data from the Soyuz back to the Russian control center. And via Roscosmos television, you can see the Soyuz descending under its main parachute. That white vapor that you see venting is normal. That white vapor is a combination of hydrogen peroxide and oxygen venting into the air. This is deliberate to safe the vehicle for landing so that no hazardous gases remain in the tanks when the soft landing engines fire about 2 seconds before the vehicle touches down. Once again, a good view, a clear sky over the landing site on the south central steppe of Kazakhstan. Touchdown expected 12 minutes from now.
Antares 61. Go ahead. Antares, we can see you under the parachute. Is the offset of 5 kilometers, 5 seconds, and we are good. We are feeling good. Copy, Antares. The pressure in the landing area is 731. Copy. 731.
There is the jettisoning of the heat shield right on time. This exposes the altimeter that feeds information into the Soyuz computers about how high up the Soyuz is as it descends under its parachute. Landing scheduled just under 10.5 minutes from now. It also exposed the soft landing engines, which will fire about 2 seconds before touchdown in a final braking maneuver. Less than 10 minutes until touchdown, everything looking very good. And the sound you hear is a radio beacon signal that is being received from the Soyuz. Basically, another form of communications capability to enable the search and recovery forces to precisely pinpoint where the Soyuz is descending to for its touchdown point, with landing now scheduled 9 minutes from now. The crew reporting they feel healthy.
Unintelligible.
Less than 8 minutes until touchdown, the Soyuz continues a perfect descent under a cloudless sky on the steppe of Kazakhstan, some 91 miles to the southeast of the town of Roscosmos.
Мы можем шаг 3-3 выполнять, шаг 9 пункта 3-3. Что там можно? Ну вот у меня пункт 3.3. Можно, да, отключать трансляцию, потому что уже включаем аппарат на парашюте.
Coming up 6.5 minutes until touchdown. Very stable Soyuz vehicle under its main parachute. Just 2 minutes until touchdown. The search and recovery forces, the Russian Mi-8 helicopters.
We are crossing 1,000-meter mark.
And you can hear that from Oleg Kononenko through the interpreter. Less than 1,000 meters until touchdown.
800.
All of the search and recovery force helicopters are in position, circling the landing zone, waiting for the touchdown, at which point they will begin to land in sequential fashion so that the safing of the vehicle and the extraction of the crew can get underway.
Наблюдаешь меня справа на 2.
608, are you observing me to the right at 2 o'clock?
Less than a minute until touchdown.
This is 4 MS-25-1, 300 meters.
300 meters off the deck. At this point, the 3 crew members will be bracing for touchdown.
Unintelligible.
Touchdown. Right on the money. A textbook touchdown on the steppe of Kazakhstan at 6:59 a.m. Central Time, 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:59 p.m. at the landing site in Kazakhstan. Tracy Dyson is home after 184 days in space. Oleg Kononenko and Nikolai Chub are home after 374 days in space, a record for an International Space Station mission. We now have video back from the landing site. The chairs are out awaiting the extraction of the crew, which again, the vehicle landed upright. So the little ladder that they erect on the side of the vehicle, the crew will be extracted out of the top hatch and then will be carefully maneuvered down that ladder and brought to those chairs that we're looking at right now.
Yes, I'm actually right next to the chairs, so I'm probably just out of your field of view. And on the other side of the chairs, we have the rest of our NASA recovery team out here. So we have Joe Acaba, Bill Spetch, and of course our flight surgeon out here ready to support and do all the medical checks as soon as Tracy Dyson's out. And then once they're done in the chairs, they'll move those over to the medical tent, which was just put up about 50 yards or so away, the orange medical tent. I don't know if you can see that in your view. That is now put up.
Right, we do not have a view of the medical tent yet. We're still looking at the blue tarp that is on the ground and the chairs that the 3 crew members will be placed in for a few minutes of a photo opportunity and for them to get their land legs back before they're brought into the medical tent to have their Sokol launch and entry suits removed. They'll be placed into more comfortable clothing, receive initial medical tests, and then we'll board the helicopters. You'll be on board one of those helicopters with Tracy Dyson heading back to Karaganda.
Yep, after we get the crew out, they do their brief medical checks here and then move over to the tent. Once they're done with all the medical checks and field tests in the tent, they will then board their helicopters back to Karaganda. And yeah, Tracy's going to be on my helicopter with the rest of the NASA personnel that are out here at the landing site. And it looks like they are getting ready to bring some of the crew out. I can see one of the search and recovery personnel up on the top, kind of leaning into the capsule, looking like they might be assisting bringing out the crew now.
And there's a view of the RSC Energia personnel at the very top of the Soyuz spacecraft. They will be removing some equipment to clear the path, if you will, for the crew members to be extracted one by one. Once they get out of that top hatch, they'll sit on the edge of the top of the Soyuz on this ladder platform, if you will, before they're carefully helped down to the ground and brought to the chairs that you see there in this field of view. There's a combination of program officials, Russian nurses, and as well as NASA personnel who have been embedded with the search and recovery forces, the Rosaviatsa forces, who quickly made their way after the Soyuz touchdown, with landing occurring just 20 minutes ago. Those helicopters landed in sequential fashion just a couple of minutes after the Soyuz touchdown to begin the process of enabling the extraction of the crew, which should get underway just a few minutes from now.
Yeah, that's right. It was a super speedy process once the capsule touched down. Pretty much as soon as the capsule landed, the helicopters started to touch down around it, and then we were the very last helicopter on the ground, and that only took about 5 minutes after landing, so definitely very quick. And here we can see the first Soyuz crew member coming out the capsule.
And the first crew member, likely Oleg Kononenko, the Soyuz commander, being helped out of the center seat. And there he is. 374 days in space on this flight, waving to the crowd. 1,111 days in space on his 5 space flights.
Please be careful. Slow.
He's now coming down the slide, and then he'll be moved into his chair over right in front of the capsule, where he'll be checked out by some of his Roscosmos medical personnel and others. And then it looks like they're already working to get the next crew member out.
Move him up.
And it sounds like NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson may be the next one out of the capsule. The flight surgeon, Natasha Cho, is out here waiting to greet Tracy as soon as she comes out.
Anna, we had a beautiful view of the Soyuz under its chute, almost from the time of chute deploy. We saw the venting of the hydrogen peroxide from the tanks. We saw the heat shield being jettisoned. And of course, the touchdown with the soft landing engines firing just a couple of seconds before the Soyuz made its way back to the surface.
Is the transmission still on?
Again, here at the landing site, we're just waiting and standing by as they continue to extract the crew. Of course, we have the first crewmate already out, Oleg Kononenko, and now we're waiting for Tracy Dyson and Nikolai Chuk to make their way out. And from our vantage point, the landing and the Soyuz capsule under its chutes were picturesque and a beautiful landing from where we were in the helicopter as well.
We are watching Oleg Kononenko as the recovery personnel are attending to him and waiting for the other crew members to be extracted out of the top of the Soyuz MS-25.
And looks like our next crew member is coming out. Should be Tracy Dyson.
Here comes Tracy.
And there's NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson making her way out. She's turning around and then she'll go down the slide. All smiles on her face currently as she's being helped out. And now Tracy Dyson is being helped over to her chair. Well, she'll get those initial medical checks before they move into the orange medical tent about 50 yards away from here.
Dyson wrapping up 184 days in space, 373 days on her third space flight.
That's it, thank you. Yep. What's around my ponytail? Thanks for being here. Yeah, miss it.
And as they work to extract the third and final crew member, Nikolai Chub, Tracy Dyson is over getting those initial medical checks. She's all smiles. She's talking to Chief Astronaut Joe Kava. They were talking about how amazing a ride was and how glad she is to be back. And I don't know if y'all can see from your camera view, but there's also a crowd of tourists actually out here, all wearing their orange shirts that came to watch the landing, and are all close up right behind the tape that was put up. Like,
I'm gonna take his gloves.
Once again, good views from the landing site of the crew members. Tracy Dyson, who is talking to her family on a satellite phone hookup. They're here in Mission Control in the viewing room. And there's Nikolai Chub, wrapping up the first flight in his career. A record-setting 374 days aboard the International Space Station, the longest flight along with Kononenko for a single flight on the orbital outpost. 1 year ago, Sergei Prokopiev, Dmitry Petelin, and NASA's Frank Rubio wrapped up 371 days in space. Kononenko and Chub eclipsed that mark last Friday. And we have NASA Public Affairs Officer Anna Schneider back on the line with us. Anna, give us a look-see as to what's going on at the landing site.
Yeah?
And sometimes is...
Oh my gosh! Очень рада вас видеть. Спасибо, спасибо. My hun? Did you see that? Oh, my former commander just gave me a bunch of roses.
Roses were given to Tracy Dyson by Oleg Novitsky, who was the Soyuz commander with whom she launched with back in March on what amounted to a taxi flight for Novitsky and Belarus spaceflight participant Marina Vasilevskaya. That was the crew that brought Laurel O'Hara home after her 6 months aboard the International Space Station.
We're going to finish up.
All three crew members are out of the spacecraft.
So let's do it right now.
In the foreground is Yuri Borisov, the head of
There
Roscosmos.
will be more. And there will be more.
And again, Tracy Dyson accepting congratulations from members of the search and recovery forces. Within the next few minutes, these three crew members, having conducted a perfect entry and landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan, will be carried in their chairs into this nearby inflatable medical tent to get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits and into more comfortable clothing.
Feels heavy. There is a souvenir for you.
And Kononenko holding up a Mitrushka doll, a stacking doll that is typical for returning crew members in a Soyuz vehicle. And I think we've reestablished our communications with Anna Schneider. Anna?
Hey, yeah, Rob, sorry about that. My connection out here in the desert of Kazakhstan dropped. But I don't know if you can see right now, Tracy Dyson is receiving some gifts from her Roscosmos family and crewmates. So she's received a couple of bouquets of flowers from folks, as well as a nesting doll with her face on it, which is tradition for some of these Soyuz landings. You often see that, those nesting dolls being given as gifts at the landing site. And then also at the landing site, there's quite a bit of tourist activity, surprisingly. So there's actually a tourist group out here. If you see folks wearing orange shirts and hats in your view, those are all tourists that came out to watch the landing.
Anna, I suspect that they'll be bringing the crew into that medical tent within the next few minutes. And I know that you and your colleagues will be heading back to Karaganda after the sun goes down for more activities back at the Karaganda airport, where Dyson and her colleagues will split up and fly back to their respective homes.
Yeah, so all three crew members are now out. They're sitting in their chairs for a few brief moments. So since Tracy Dyson was extracted from the capsule, she's had time to have a brief medical check, and then she also had the chance to call some family and friends. And then, of course, she's received these gifts, and just a short while from now, we should see them carry off into the medical tent about 50 yards away, that big orange tent, where they'll do some additional medical evaluations, do some field tests, and also change out of their entry and landing suit into a more comfortable flight suit for that ride back to Karaganda. From there, Tracy Dyson and the rest of the NASA personnel will board the NASA Gulfstream, and then we will begin our journey back to Houston, expecting to arrive in Houston early Tuesday morning. And then, of course, the Roscosmos crewmates will also board their respective plane once we are back at Karaganda.
People dressed in orange, please move to the left. Please move. I'm asking you to move. The rescue services crew are supposed to be behind the crew members. Crew is taking photographs. And where are the 5 surgeons?
And now they're having a brief photo op with some of the search and recovery personnel and Roscosmos personnel.
Can you see
Shortly
everyone?
after this photo op, we should see them being moved into the tent.
All right, thank you. One more take.
And Rob, if you're still with me, I can't tell if the call's dropped or not. They're about to take the crew into the medical tent. It looks like they are about to lift up Oleg Kononenko first and take him over there. And then Tracy Dyson and Nikolai Chuk should be shortly after that.
Now we've got Jana. I know from experience that the satellite communications out there can be spotty sometimes and have to be reconnected from time to time. And once again, as the sun begins to set in south-central Kazakhstan, the search and recovery teams are about to hoist Oleg Kononenko up and bring him into the nearby medical tent.
Oh, you've been hoisted.
In short order, Tracy Dyson and Nikolai Chub will follow. The 3 crew members will get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits, get into more comfortable clothing. They'll receive some additional medical testing, which is routine, before they are brought back to 3 helicopters, 1 for each crew member with their support personnel, to be flown 2 hours back to the staging city of Karaganda, where Dyson and Kononenko and Chub will split up, Dyson boarding a NASA plane bound for Houston. Kononenko and Chub will return to their training base and their homes in Star City, Russia, outside of Moscow.
And I don't know if you can see on the view, but Tracy Dyson's now been hoisted up and is headed towards the orange medical tent. So we're just waiting for Nikolai Chub to head that way, but they're all heading to the medical tent to do those evaluations, change out of their suits, and then we'll board our helicopters and start making our journey back to Karaganda and then on to Houston.
Please make sure that you're holding the seat by the supports. All right, let's go.
And Nikolai Chub is now making his way to the medical tent. We've got some applause from the tourists and onlookers here in Kazakhstan at the landing site. But I think with all 3 crew members making their way back to the medical tent, I'll probably wrap up my report here in Kazakhstan in the desert as the sun begins to set. Again, it was a beautiful day for a landing. Everything was picturesque from our end. Tracy's looking happy to be back here on Earth after her 6-month mission. With that, I'll hand it back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Anna. Great job out there, and have a safe trip back to Karaganda and back here to Houston. We appreciate all your work.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye.
And so Nikolai Chub now being brought into the medical tent. And just to recap, the Soyuz touched down 41 minutes ago at 6:59 a.m. Central Time, 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:59 p.m. at the landing site in Kazakhstan, some 91 miles to the southeast of the town of Roscosmos. It was a textbook touchdown. All of the events with hatch closure, undocking, the deorbit burn, all of the entry activities, all unfurled without any problem whatsoever, bringing back Tracy Dyson after 184 days in space, and Kononenko and Chub, 374 days in space. For Kononenko, a record-setting 1,111 days in space on his 5 flights. On board the space station, which continues to orbit as it does every day for the past 26 years, and 24 years of permanent human occupancy, 9 crew members remain, including the new commander of the newly minted Expedition 72 increment, Sonny Williams of NASA. They will continue all of their work, all of their research, and will be preparing for what we hope will be the launch of the Crew 9 crew, NASA's Nick Hague and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov later in the week from Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, the launch date being evaluated with a flight readiness review to take place later today.